Are you ready to get your health back but feel overwhelmed by the endless healthcare options? We believe God has called each of us to a specific assignment, and we want to make sure your body, mind, and heart are up for the task. It's time to simplify the process of healing. At Cornerstone Integrative Healing, we offer simple, effective, easy ways to prioritize your health and gain understanding. No prescription pad needed. I'm Kari, a pharmacist turned integrative health practitioner. I'm so excited to have these conversations around topics with my friend, Jenn.
Hi there, I'm Jenn, and together with our team at Cornerstone Integrative Healing, we offer an alternative to traditional healthcare, combining our expertise and experience in the medical field with our knowledge and faith to break the cycles of guessing what's wrong. We know the road to healing, feeling good again, can be overwhelming. You can expect honest conversations around the ups and downs of healing. The truth is, there are so many layers to healing. Because we've taken the time to learn where true healing comes from, we've learned how to help other women discover a different way of caring for themselves. Join us every week for new episodes as we discuss topics that are personal and pertinent to your healing journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. It's Kari and Jenn here, and we have Marina back with us, and we are doing another maybe ask the pharmacist before you take it, whatever might fit this conversation best, just to chat about some different medications that are really common, just to give you more information and just share some things about these that you maybe not had considered before, and hopefully some ways that you can counteract if you are on the medication, or hopefully avoid it if possible. But today we're going to be talking about ADHD medications, and they're definitely very popular in kids, but becoming increasingly popular in adults as well, because we have such a hard time focusing as a society in general. And, a lot of times these are like just the first solution that's offered if focus is an issue or if hyperactivity is an issue. And I don't really think that should be the case. So we're going to kind of chat a little bit about that today. And just for clarification, we're not anti-medication. We're not dismissing any real struggles where you might need this medication or others. It's not medical advice that we're giving. And so we're just wanting to share information to hopefully help you just to understand this topic a little bit better. So, Marina, do you want to tell the listeners just a little bit about what ADHD medications are and sort of like what they're designed to do?
Yeah. So some of the more common ones that are available are Adderall, which is amphetamine salts, mixed amphetamine salts. Ritalin and Concerta, which are your methylphenidates, is the generic. And then probably the newest one that I believe just went generic is Vyvanse or lisdexphenamine. There are some other ones that are not controlled that are also used for ADHD purposes, but those are kind of your top three that I saw in the retail world given out the most. And I mean, the basic way to understand how these drugs operate in the body, it essentially stimulates the central nervous system activity in terms of, increasing the use of neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine to help kind of regulate focus, motivation, and attention. So it increases the availability of these neurotransmitters in the synapse and therefore kind of stimulates the nervous system to keep going. So that's why, they're known as kind of stimulants, so to say. So like I said, that can help with focus, reduce impulsivity in children, and increase like productivity or, getting tasks done in a certain time.
Yeah, which is ironic because it's kind of paradoxical, right? The way that these drugs work. They,
Yes.
right? You would think that those sort of symptoms, would need something to calm them down instead of something to stimulate them.
Yeah.
Because when you're having difficulty focusing and following through on tasks, you would think it would be something relaxation, but it's actually Do they know how they don't know how these works exactly, correct?
No, I remember just learning in school that, the exact mechanism is unknown, is what we were told, and that
Yes.
it had something to do with, increasing the neurotransmitters in the synapse, just kind of like the SSRIs, how it causes serotonin to kind of linger in there more. And that was shown to help kids focus more. But like you said, the mechanism never really made sense to me in terms of how it worked. So,
Sure. Well,
yeah.
they don't even know how aspirin works.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
um, anyway, yeah. And I know, sometimes I think when you look at the diagnostic criteria, things like fidgets with their hands and feet, squirms in their seat, leaves their seat, when remaining in seat is an expectation, runs or climbs excessively, often on the go. Like, I think that, we were talking about this before off camera, that can be a normal little boy, right? Um, it's just it's part of their makeup, right? But we're expecting them to sit in a seat for 6 to 7 hours and listen for long periods of time, which is hard for adults to do, right?
Yeah.
So I think that needs to be taken into consideration also.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah,
there
I think
are but go ahead.
no, you could.
I was just gonna say, but there are underlying, nutritional things too, um, that are very interesting that play into ADHD. Obviously, they'll use the diagnostic criteria, the fidgeting, difficulty completing tasks, often lose track, can't stay on task, forgetful in everyday activities, those sorts of things. But, it's interesting because a couple things. One is they found that 65% of the ADHD group that had, brain scans had a decreased perfusion to the prefrontal cortex, which is where we do our executive function, right? So that part of the brain isn't getting good blood flow, which is interesting. Um, so, I think anything that can oxygenate, and this was suggested to me from one of the doctors at, the Amen clinics. They do lots of SPECT scans on brains. And basically the suggestion was, anything that can oxygenate the brain will help with that. Obviously walking, deep breathing, chiropractic adjustments, acupuncture, ginkgo, which is a herb that helps with, blood flow can sometimes, help with the perfusion of that prefrontal cortex. Now, is that the only thing? Absolutely not. Um, but it's something to think about. Do we wanna talk
Mhm.
about just some of the side effects of these drugs before we get into maybe some other things that could be helpful? Because I know some of the side effects can be, especially for kids, can be, you know, um, adding to or contributing to some of it, and one of them is appetite suppression, correct?
Yeah, for sure. It's very common to skip meals and just,
Yes.
they just have reduced, anyone that's on this reduced hunger cues in general.
Mhm.
And that really makes blood sugar erratic.
Right.
Right, which is
Yeah,
can further perpetuate the
right.
problem.
For
Right,
sure.
so another study, so they were kids with ADHD given a 5-hour glucose test. 74% of them had abnormal glucose tolerance curves indicative of hypoglycemia. This is before medication. So they're
Mhm.
already hypoglycemic.
Yeah. So, like, if you're, just maybe getting more protein or eating more whole foods in general would be a fix to focus. Would be a great thing to try, right? We'll talk about some more of those things, but,
Yeah.
another really common thing is, sleep is impacted, so, like, difficulty falling asleep or just restless, like you're not getting into a deep sleep because of the stimulant effects, of course, during the day, it's hard for that to wear off, from day to day. And so, that really affects your cortisol and it stimulates your nervous system. Um, Increased anxiety and irritability is another big side effect. So just feeling wired, possibly wired and tired, emotional swings. Again, that kind of goes back to nervous system overstimulation and just your body kind of trying to cope with just what you're asking it to do, and then it being stimulated by the medication. And then
I
just
mean, the medication is speed, right?
right, yeah. So your nervous system is kind of trying to hold on for dear life, probably,
Right.
honestly. Um, and just the dependency for function is a concern, of being on these, day in and day out. They can be helpful short term, but just, addressing the root cause is not something that this medication does. So
I
what do
think
you guys
we forget that these medications carry black box warnings, which are the highest, most severe form that the FDA will put out on a medication.
Yeah.
And these are specifically for abuse, misuse, and addiction. So
Mhm.
these are things that once you do want to get off, or if you want to decrease, it is going to be significantly harder to do so because it does carry that chemical and physiological dependency
Yeah,
with it.
for sure.
Yeah. So these kids who start the medications early in childhood and then want to get off have a really hard time because they're dependent on that chemical change, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess and that would be a good point to like again, we're definitely not against the medication. Listen, if someone needs it, they absolutely 100% should use the medications. But also like maybe thinking twice about trying some things beforehand before going straight to a med to support the child, with focus, with blood sugar, with other things before just jumping to the medication. Again, if it's needed, it's needed. But, I think a lot of times the kids, can be overstimulated from screens or the environment. If they have two working parents, they might lack the nervous system might lack the safety signals, of just parents, able to be present. I know for me, it's even hard, right? Like in every day, trying just to get simple things done. You're working um, but I think that's huge for kids is the overstimulated station, the chronic fight or flight. I think these kids are being born into that
Yeah,
chronic fight or flight, right?
definitely.
They're
Mhm.
coming from parents, and I'm probably one of them that were in that chronic fight or flight.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's just recognizing that, right? And supporting it early, and doing the things that we've always talked about. Um, Early on to help, prevent the food sensitivities, the food intolerances, supporting the blood sugar, removing heavy metal toxicity. That can be a huge one, for knocking off, y basically the brain's capacity because that a lot of heavy metals will concentrate in the brain. Not that that's directly linked to ADHD, but it's everything
It's a
together.
stressor, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it's
it's a
just kind of
stressor,
yeah,
Right.
right. Um, then you add in, abnormal thyroid responsiveness, deficiency in essential fatty acids. That was another study that was done, showing that, a significant amount of kids with ADHD were deficient in essential fatty acids. They looked at plasma levels of DHA and EPA, which are the active components, if you will, in the fish oil, and found that they had consistently and significantly lower levels than controls. And they had things like dry hair, dandruff, dry skin, which were other signs of EPA deficiency, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I think, even working with a couple kids that I have supporting blood sugar, more protein is key because you can't make a neurotransmitter, remember, without protein. Protein, the amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, make up those neurotransmitters. So doing simple things like replacing seed oils, supplementing with essential fatty acids, adding more protein, um, you know, uh, because that will control blood sugar, and even using something between meals to help stabilize blood sugar has been in my, I don't have a lot of experience with ADHD, but the few that I have, helping to control that dip in blood sugar and therefore attention. Because when your blood sugar goes down, you will get fidgety. You will get, distracted. You can't focus. So these are, simple things I think that we can try beforehand. And then there's actually an MD he published in the Journal of American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry that there's a specific supplement on the market called OPC, which is basically the compilation of the red wine, green tea. There's a special formula, and that OPC is a special formula that was developed by a French physician to help with antioxidant reserves and specifically support inattention, distractibility, poor task sequencing specifically. So again, there are some things that you can try to support the brain before jumping straight to the medication. And then if it doesn't work, then you can medicate if needed, and support the body in other ways while it is medicated.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say too. Just because, maybe you're considering this, you need to get it for yourself or a family member. It's not the end of the world, right? I mean, sometimes we need to do what we need to do, but maybe don't let that be the end of the conversation. Just keep digging. As you can see, there are several things that could be at play here, but first and foremost, like Jenn has said, if you are not eating enough or not eating often enough, that will cause anxiety and low focus and all of these things. So just start there if you don't know where to start, right? Make sure you're eating enough and eating enough protein specifically to fuel these things and hopefully stabilize your blood sugar. That's number one.
Yeah. I just want to say too, a lot of the symptoms of ADHD are identical to magnesium deficiency.
Yeah.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and even the epidemiological studies found that 95% of the kids with ADHD were deficient in magnesium.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
So there's definitely, other herbal and nutritional options that have good success. Bacopa is another one. It's a great specific herb for cognitive enhancing. Like it's a mild sedative too, adaptogenic, but it's specifically, the ADHD, the way that this specific herb works for, helping with concentration and information processing. So there's definitely things that you can try.
Right. Yeah. So it's not necessarily a one thing that maybe is going on if you have trouble focusing. Just zoom out and look at how all of these things are connected, right? There is a connection with everything that's going on. It's just trying to look at things a little bit more objectively and hopefully get to more of the root cause rather than just hiding symptoms or covering up symptoms and possibly causing more. So,
and I think it's also like having the patience to kind of work through some of these things because they are slower fixes, as we've said before, but they're long-term fixes. So I think it's important to just recognize that it does take more work and diligence and research on the parents' end or even the adults' end to get to some of these more holistic approaches. But it's long-term. You're going to actually change your biology, change your physiology for the better.
Yeah. So it'll be better, right? It'll be a better outcome. And what I've noticed, and I'm sure that you girls can attest, is God shows you something every single time, right? He's got something waiting for you on the other side. It's probably more freedom, more peace, all of those things. So, if we can help you in any way, if you have questions, we would love to answer those. You can find ways to connect with us in the show notes. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for joining.
If this episode has served you in any way, drop a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd love it if you'd share any aha moments or takeaways on Instagram and tag us at Cornerstone Integrative Healing.
And if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do so. We want to continue to walk this journey with you. Until next time, friends, know that we are praying for you.